Hey, what's up? This video is going to be previewing the matchup between Nebraska and Michigan on Saturday, September 22nd, 2018. So let's get into it. Alrighty, as far as the game this Saturday, Nebraska at Michigan, the weather is going to be pretty standard, like 6-7 mile per hour wind and about 65 to 70 degrees according to the forecast in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So the weather shouldn't really play a factor in this game if you're curious about that. As far as diving into the game here, the spread is 17.5 points favored towards Michigan. So, yeah, pretty big spread for a game like this, but it's coming off the back of Nebraska losing to Troy last week and Michigan looking good the last 2 weeks. So that's why the spread is that large. And just kind of diving into it here, I'm going to get into the numbers. Are overall, we have Michigan coming in with 8 check marks and Nebraska with 2. So a big advantage kind of overall here for Michigan. The talent level of 18.4 to 26.2 in recruiting last 5 years is a little bit favored towards Michigan, but it's actually a little bit more than the numbers would show you, because like 3 years ago and 2 years ago, Michigan was a top 10 class both those years, and those are the kids that are going to be mainly starting. So I expect the talent to definitely be favorable towards Michigan, and they're at home. Yards per rush, pretty even, but a slight advantage for Michigan. And I like to look at differentials. You know, how good is your offensive rush versus your defense against the rush? And in rush differential, Nebraska actually has a small advantage in that department. And for yards per pass, Michigan is great. They're at 8.7, a pretty big advantage over Nebraska. And then they also have the advantage in opponents' yards per pass, and they have an amazing pass differential of plus 3.5. We see Nebraska coming in at plus 0.9. So in the passing game, expect Michigan to have a big advantage in this one. But I would throw a caveat out there that Nebraska has not had Adrian Martinez for, like 55-60% of their time of their snaps played. So expect that would not be plus 0.9 if Martinez had been healthy this whole season. So I expect the advantage to be for Michigan, but not as huge as the numbers indicate. Quarterback, I'm giving Nebraska a C because I just don't know. I don't know. Adrian Martinez looks like he's going to be a game time decision. And if he does play, if he's not 100%, he's a hobbled true freshman. I mean, I can't really give him more than a B in that case. And if Bunch plays, I think the grade would be like a C minus. So it kind of averages out to a C is the best I could come up with to give Nebraska. Obviously, with a healthy and full go Martinez with a full week of practice, that quarterback grade would be much higher. I do believe in Adrian Martinez as a QB in Scott Frost's system. Quarterback for Michigan is an A-. Shea Patterson was a 5-star recruit, big-time arm talent, and his stats have been pretty remarkable so far this season. I can't give him an A or an A+ because he hasn't really won a big game at Michigan yet or done anything super amazing. But as far as arm talent and ability at the quarterback position, Michigan is set. Shea Patterson is really good. Coaching, I'm going to give a slight edge to Michigan. I do believe in Scott Frost and his staff. We just haven't seen it materialize yet at Nebraska. Now, if you ask me which coach I would rather have, I honestly would rather have Scott Frost. I do think he's going to be great and do great things at Nebraska. But when Harbaugh took over Michigan, they had won like 8 games, 7 games, and 5 games the 3 previous years. He took over a 5-win team, and boom, year 1, 10 wins. Boom, year 2, 10 wins. So Harbaugh can coach. He took over Michigan, and he did make them better. They haven't really broke through and won big games yet, which is why I can't give the coaching for Michigan an A or an A+, but I think A- is fair for what he's done at Michigan. As far as intangibles, I can't really, neither team really stands out as being great in the intangibles department from what I looked at, which is like field position, penalties, turnovers, injuries, stuff like that. This is kind of just all-encompassing those sort of things. Nebraska has been atrocious on special teams. Nebraska's been kind of bad in field position. Nebraska is dinged up at the quarterback position. Nebraska has had ridiculous penalties, lots of drops, lots of fumbles, bad turnover margin. So, I mean, I can't really go. I don't expect it to continue, which is why that grade isn't a D or a D minus. I do expect Nebraska to get it right with Scott Frost at some point, but I couldn't really go above D plus just given my eye test and what I've seen. But Michigan is also not great in that department, so they're coming in at a C plus. The intangibles will be a slight towards Michigan, but nothing super crazy in my opinion. So yeah, for the end of the video, as far as if you're gonna bet on this game, who should you pick? I've been wrong the last 2 games saying that Nebraska was the bet, but I do think against Colorado, Nebraska was the proper bet at that spread. And no one could have expected Nebraska to look as terrible against Troy as they did. So coming into this game, I really don't want to be wrong 3 in a row, but this is a tough one to pick. I expect Michigan to win by about 17. So if the spread is 17.5, I would take Nebraska. If the spread is 16.5, I would take Michigan. I think the spread is pretty accurate on this one. Now, if Martinez is healthy and he's like more than 90% ready to go, I would take Nebraska. Like if you're waiting till Saturday morning and it comes out in the news, you know, hey, Martinez looks great, he's healthy, he's full go, I would take Nebraska. 17.5 points is a lot to give up for a Nebraska team that has a quarterback as talented as Adrian Martinez and a defense that's looked pretty decent like Nebraska's. So I would take the points in that scenario. But right now, I don't know. Martinez could be not 100%, or it could be bunch playing. So if I had to bet right now, I would probably take Michigan. I would expect Michigan to win this game by about 23-24 if Martinez didn't play. And if Martinez does play, I would expect Michigan to win in like that 10-13 range. So yeah, hopefully that helps you out. It's kind of, you know, there's lots of variables that go into this thing. But yeah, anyway, as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.